Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most eye-watering numbers in football, the price tag on a player who just turned 18. So how does a teenager get valued like a global superstar? Well, let's break it down.
Everything kicks off with this number right here, 70 million euros. I mean, to put that in perspective, that's a truly staggering amount of money, and it's the price being attached to one of football's brightest young talents.
And there it is, straight from the source. When Fabrizio Romano says it, you know it's real. This is the release clause in the brand new contract for FC Porto's Rodrigo Moura, an 18-year-old attacking midfielder who has basically every big club in Europe watching his every single move.
So that leads to the big question, right? Who is this kid, and how on earth do you justify that kind of valuation? Well, it's not just about raw talent. It's about timing, it's about context, and believe it or not, it's about a whole new science of valuation.
Okay, so to really get this, we've got to start with the situation at his club FC Porto. Because you see, to understand Moura's value, you first have to understand what he represents to them, especially right now.
So Porto, historically a giant of Portuguese football, has been going through a really shaky period. I mean, we're talking about finishing third 2 years in a row, which is a big deal for them. They've got a new president, managers have been changing, key players sold off. One source just called it turbulent, and that really hits the nail on the head. And right in the middle of all that chaos, this teenager has become this symbol of hope. You know, for the fans, he's the bright spark, he's the club's new poster boy for the future, he's the reason to believe the best days are still ahead.
And his rise has been, well, nothing short of meteoric. Just look at this timeline. At 15 years old, he's banging in 4 goals in 32 minutes for the youth team. Fast forward just a couple of years, and he's not only in the first team, he's getting called up to the senior Portugal national squad. That trajectory is just wow.
So, we get the context. He's the beacon of hope. But what is it about him on the pitch? What are all the scouts and analysts actually seeing that makes them think, yep, he's worth it? Well, he's described as a player who relies on his brain and his technical skill, not just raw physical power. Think of a player who seems to see the game in slow motion, always a step ahead. His low center of gravity makes him super agile, and that ability to read the game has people comparing him to another Portuguese star, João Felix. And here's the thing, the numbers, they absolutely back up the hype. This isn't just about potential, he's already delivering. Becoming the youngest player in 35 years to both score and assist in the same game, that's insane. And being second only to a phenom like Barcelona's Lamine Yamal for goal contributions by an under-18 player, that puts you in some seriously elite company.
You know, fan forums and comment sections, they actually give us a pretty balanced picture. People see the real football brain, they love that he's brave and takes risks, but they're also realistic. They see the areas where an 18-year-old still needs to grow. He needs more physical power, and sometimes he can go into what they call hero ball mode, trying to do a bit too much on his own.
Okay, so we've established he's a phenomenal talent. He's the hope of a massive club, and he's already smashing records. But that brings us to the most complex and maybe the most interesting part of this whole story. How do clubs actually translate all that potential you see on the field into a cold, hard number like 70 million euros? Well, it's not just an art form anymore. It's quickly becoming a science.
And the answer lies in this new science we mentioned. It's this fascinating blend of some super advanced data analytics and financial theory that is literally changing how clubs do business.
See, in the past, a player's value was pretty simple. It was tied to the basic numbers you see in the box score after a game. You know, goals, assists, tackles. The stuff that tells you what happened at the very end of a play. But the new models, they're asking a much deeper question. How much does a player influence the entire game? Not just their final action, but their role in every single pass and move that builds up to it. And this is basically how it works. It's brilliant. First, you map every single pass to see who is the real hub of the team. Then, you measure just how critical that player is to the flow of the game. That's called their centrality. And from there, it gets wild. You basically treat that influence score like a stock, and you project its future growth. And finally, you use these complex formulas, the same kind they use for stock options on Wall Street, to calculate a fair market price today. It's where football analytics meets high finance.
So let's bring all of this back to Rodrigo Moura and that 70 million euro price tag. What does this new science really tell us about his value?
And here's the crucial point. That 70 million euro figure isn't really for the player we see today. It's a forward-looking calculation. It's a calculated bet. The data models are projecting that his influence on the game, his role as that network hub, is on a path to grow exponentially. You're not just paying for the player he is, you're paying for the superstar he is statistically likely to become.
And you know what? It's not just the algorithms that see this elite potential. His call-up to the senior national team and this high praise from his coach Roberto Martinez, that's the ultimate human confirmation. When a manager of his caliber says a player can mark an era, the entire world sits up and takes notice.
So it all leaves us with this final thought. The €70 million price tag on Rodrigo Mora, it's a sign of a new reality. It's a world where raw, human talent and cold, hard data science are becoming inseparable. And it just makes you wonder, as these algorithms get more and more sophisticated, how much of the beautiful game is going to be driven by what the numbers on a spreadsheet tell us?